Hello, it's Eamon McAuley here, and I'm in North Belfast. I've got someone very, very special with me today, and his name is Sammy Vernon. I'm just going to cut the introduction because it would take us about a half an hour doing the introduction. So we'll go straight into the story of Sammy Vernon. Sammy, talk to me first about growing up in North Belfast. What was that like?
Oh yeah, when it was a very close-knit society, and everyone liked everybody else, it seemed. But I grew up in a snooker hall called the Tin Hut. It was in North Queen Street, and from I had to stand on my tiptoes and put a box to stand up at the table to reach the table when I started playing billiards in those days as opposed to snooker. So I grew up there and I made a lot of friends through that game because I was in that every day, and that's where we became friends with lots of people. And you know Rinty Monaghan, as you know yourself,
Good billiards player?
good billiards player.
Did you play in billiards?
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah. They were always, because I was a kid, they were better than me, of course, a lot better than me at that time.
But I'll tell you how good Sammy Vernon is as a snooker player. He's made a maximum 147. That's how good he is. And he's played all the top players. I mean, you mentioned names like Rex Williams, Joe Swale, Kirk Stevens. I mean, you've rubbed shoulders and you've played these people pretty regularly. So you played in the English Championships, you played Virgo.
Yes. I met John Virgo in the championships. He was the one that put me out of the championships.
Right.
And I've got to be cut out here about me and this other guy called Jim Fitton. We played in the Northwest Purge Championships, which we won.
Right. Well, tell us that story about Kirk Stevens. I think we'll get away with it because it's well publicised.
Kirk Stevens, as you know, was a great player from Canada.
Yeah.
Terrific. Young lad, nice, good looking lad, wore a white suit when he made 147 breaking television,
course, yeah.
if you remember that. Well, he was, unfortunately, he was on drugs for a while.
Cocaine. Well publicised.
Yeah, as you probably know. Well, so he wanted to come off it. So this guy said to him, okay, what we'll do, we'll bring you over to Tenerife, give you a little break for a couple of months, and try and get you off the drugs type of thing. So when he came over, he stayed in the same place where I was staying, a place called Los Gigantes in Tenerife. And we started playing pool together in this little pub, this Irish pub, and became friends. And one day he was in the toilet, and I was reading this paper, and the paper was saying, Kirk Stevens is now coming over back to the rehabilitation for the drugs and stuff, you see.
Yeah.
And I looked at it.
And all is fine, he's clean, he's been off it for so long.
He's coming off it, he's doing his best here, he's going to do this and do that. So I'm waiting for him coming out of the toilet again. So when he comes out of the toilet, I show him the paper. I says, look, isn't that right up here? And he comes to me like this with his hand sniffing like this, going, yeah. Because he just went in the toilet, and it wasn't just the toilet he was going to for a particular reason.
No,
so,
of course. But all good lads. Any stories about Higgins?
Well, yes, I have a story about Higgins. We went down, I was down in, I think it was Bristol, where they held the Irish Championships.
Right.
Irish Championships.
That's really Irish, isn't it? In Bristol.
Bristol. So know who beat Higgins that day? It was Jackie Ray.
Right.
And I was down with Jackie McLaughlin. He was playing it as well. So Higgins lived up in Manchester at the time. So we give him a lift back up. He was in a bad mood because Jackie Ray had beat him in the championships.
Yeah.
And we gave him a lift back up to Manchester.
Right.
So we went into his house. He brought us in for a cup of tea on the way up. And then we had a wee cup of tea and so on and so forth. And had a game on his table at his home. And then we went on our way. And the next day or the following day after that, we're reading in the paper about Alec Higgins. Don't know if you remember this, but he threw a television through the window because he had a row with his wife.
Yeah.
And that was the day after we had just left him, because he was in a bad mood.
He was a bad loser, yes. I'm sure
you
he's listened to the abuse the whole way up. But listen, talk to me about your boxing career. Was it Paddy McAuley, you says, got you into the sport?
Paddy McAuley, he was a flyweight, but before he became a flyweight, from the 5 stone 7, 5 stone 6 stone, he won the Irish titles a few times, and he became Best Boxer award 2 or 3 times. He's a terrific little boxer. He was the same class as me at school, and it was him that took me to boxing initially. He took me up to Holy Family, which was up in
Chichester Park. Well, Chester is today.
And Jimmy Hall was a trainer then, and Jerry was his assistant at that time. And that's how I started the boxing. Then we moved down to Patrickville.
Patrickville, of course, yeah.
In Holy Family Club, and Jerry sort of took over. Jimmy Hall finished then.
Were you successful initially? Did you win Irish titles as a kid, as juvenile?
Yeah, well, my first year, I boxed in Ulsters. I was 13, and I come my first fight was against Paddy Moore.
Oh,
and a lot of people know Paddy Moore.
Baptism of fire.
He was a double Irish champion, and John
cracker.
Sweeney, who was our secretary, said to me, to Jerry, you can't let Sam fight him, you know what I mean? Because I hadn't boxed yet, it was my first fight. Anyway, he said, he'll box him. So I boxed Paddy. And Paddy was in St Matthews, it was also in St Matthews. Paddy beat me on points, but I got a good write-up saying, Vernon extends Irish champion. But to tell you the truth, I can't even remember hitting him. All I remember is running away from him and him not hitting me. So.
Talk to me about the Holy Family and Jerry's story, Bobby McAllister.
Well, the both of them were. Jerry in particular was a big input into my boxing career, because I first started boxing. He was the trainer. He used to train me, and Bobby McAllister was still training in those days.
He was still boxing.
He was still boxing. I don't think he was boxing as much. I think he was training more than boxing as such.
Right.
I don't think he had many contests when I was started boxing, but he was still training and sparring with people, you know. And so Jerry was the one that took me under his wing and taught me the aspects of. I remember for the first, I went to the gym and he wouldn't let me punch a bag or punch anything for a couple of few weeks. All he wanted me to do was go around the ring for my balance, for my footwork. And for 2 weeks, I didn't throw a punch at all for nothing. So, at anything really. And so that's how I started off my boxing career. And then Jerry took it from there and started moving up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Bobby, as I come into the juniors and stuff, and Bobby started helping Jerry with the training. And so Bobby was, because there was quite a few in the club as well, Bobby started training with me as well and doing my rule work and my groundwork with Bobby. And Randy Monaghan used to take me up the Cave Hill and had me running up the Cave Hill. And Randy had me drinking buttermilk.
It wasn't goat's milk,
it wasn't
buttermilk.
buttermilk.
No.
And not only that, he also took me down to the abattoir, which is in the half bap, and used a lot of brine in the abattoir.
Yeah.
So he says, put the brine on your skin and hardens your skin up, right?
Yeah.
So I goes down and I put this brine all over my eyes like this. But not only does it maybe harden your skin, but it stains your skin.
Goodness.
So I look like a panda bear.
Oh,
my eyes was all white. I look like a panda bear, for goodness sake.
Wow.
The only panda bear ever boxed for Northern Ireland.
Wow. You have great memories of the boxing. Of course, you beat the great Paddy Maguire twice.
Yeah.
And you beat the great Davy Larmour twice. Talk to me about the rivalry you had. I mean, I know people who say it was the best fight you ever seen yourself against Maguire at the Ulster Hall.
That was a big build-up, that one, because we were on last, they kept it to last, but it was on television, it was on Grandstand the following day, but they kept it on last at 11 o'clock, we went into the ring at 11 o'clock, that was the last fight. You know, you normally go flyweight bantamweight, but they kept it to last, which was 11 o'clock, and we started boxing.
Because Paddy had just got a silver medal.
Paddy had just got a silver medal in Jamaica.
66.
I was up and coming guy, you know, and Paddy was the little fighter and I was sort of the box fighter, and it seemed that Paddy was going to be the one that's coming aggressive and come all over me. As it happened, he just came out to run at me in the first round. I put him down in the first round. So after that, then he tried to come after me again.
Because he only knew one way to fight Paddy.
At that time, yes.
Yeah.
And he couldn't really catch me really.
But of course, what a win, and people still talk about that to this day. So you turned pro in 1967 with Bert McCarthy.
With Bert McCarthy, yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Well, Bert McCarthy he'd been after me for a year or two, you know, because for the international scene, he see me boxing the international scene.
Yes.
And I went over to London. I lived over in London for a while. And I got my jaw broke, my first professional fight. I won the fight against Joey Lando, a guy from Liverpool. The gym I was training, we had people. It was Bunny Sterling, you know, and Billy Walker used to come in,
right.
and Terry Downs used to come in. And everyone knows Terry Downs,
I know Terry, yeah.
world middleweight champion. Yeah. But Terry was very cockney, and you could difficult to understand.
Some mouth on him.
Some mouth on him. Yeah.
So you sparred the great Hard Winston.
Yes, my
in
early '68, Hard Winston had fought Vincent Saldivar 3 times and got beat 3 times. But he fought a guy called Mitsuno Risiki, a Japanese guy who was a southpaw, for the vacant title. And he was looking for southpaws who could box a bit. So Eddie Thomas, his manager, I'd boxed against Wales a couple of times. He'd seen me boxing, so he asked Bert McCarthy, could I come over to Wales? I was living in London at the time. Come over to Wales and be a sparring partner. So me and Des Ray, welterweight champion, me and Des Ray were sparring partners for that period of time for about 6 weeks before his fight. So that was a great experience for me, obviously, because I only boxed a few fights.
Wow, what a fighter he was.
But
and 3 fingers missing too. So.
3 fingers from his...
Yeah, what a great fighter, Hard Winston. I mean, in the top 3 greatest boxers ever come out of the British Isles.
I would say
have
so.
to be,
I would
yeah.
say so. The left hand was like a lollipop. It was never out of your face.
Right.
You just bump. It was terrific. No doubt about it. For me, it was a terrific experience for me.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for any boxers coming up now? Any young lads?
Well, it's never really coming up now. Any time in your career at all for boxing, the way I look at it is you got to be dedicated. Dedication is a big thing in boxing. That's the first thing in boxing. Dedication. If you're not dedicated, it doesn't matter how good or much ability you have. If you're not dedicated and putting yourself through the ring that you should do, then you're not going to make it.
Right. Well, you didn't give it 100%. You gave the boxing 50% and the snooker 50%. How did you juggle the two? You were brilliant at both.
That proves my answer.
Yeah.
No.
That's why you didn't add the earlier answer.
But that's probably the advice I'd give to any young boxer, because unless he's dedicated and keeping himself fit,
yeah,
and it's not just him, it's his trainer as well to do that.
Yeah.
But then when you say that, at the end of the day, you can do things the trainer tells you to do. You can do them good or you can do them bad. So it's really down to you.
Yeah.
You can bluff your way in boxing no matter what, but you're not bluffing anybody except yourself.
You've crammed so much into your life. You really, really have. You've had a wonderful life. Well, listen, Sammy, thanks very much for speaking. It's been a real joy and a pleasure. God bless you. Thank you. You're a real joy.
Thank you.